People still use Linux.
Yeah, I do. I haven't
I
had a
felt like the
Windows.
federal government had like puts you on a list if you use Linux.
No, it's I mean, they probably should, but
They probably
if
should.
if they were smart.
Oh my
No,
god.
it's I've been a IT nerd as a passive fascination for, oh shoot, since I was a wee tyke. My dad used to actually have a like home call PC repair like side hustle. So he had a bunch of computer parts, when I was like 10 or 11. And so
Oh
y-
man, this is OG like yeah, tech
oh
nerd back
yeah,
in the
it
day.
was yeah, it was
Mm.
PC2 RAM and stuff like that and Windows XP. Oh, it was Kino days. Oh, I
Oh
wish I could
man.
go back. I wish I could go back.
I remember
It was
one time. Yeah, yeah, but go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just gonna
Mhm.
say, like, I had a weird growing up experience because, old smart
Let
army
me
dude
grab an
dad.
American spirit here. But yeah,
Oh,
go
of
ahead
course.
about your
He would
yeah.
like teach me about computer stuff, and then we were Southern family. We'd go shoot, and he would we did gunsmithing projects together and
Right.
hand load ammunition and stuff. So it was a good time.
That's good, man. Like I'm trying to pin your southern accent down.
Oh,
Let's see.
you're never gonna get it. I have a weird accent. I'm from Tennessee. My family is
Yeah,
from
there you go.
Indiana.
There you
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
but my family's from Indiana, and everyone here, that's got a more prominent Southern drawl. They're like, you sound like a Yankee, and then yeah, no, so I'm not accepted anywhere really. I'm a black sheep.
It was my friend Bob I went to grad school with. He's from Tennessee. And I shout out to Bob. He's probably listening to this. Um, yeah, I remember he had that like it's funny when you get to like certain southern states like Tennessee, Arkansas, even Missouri, like they kind of sound like Yankee-ish, but it's like but then certain inflections, it's like it comes out. It's really
Yeah,
so
there's
yeah, I was trying to
especially
gauge
as
your accent when I was listening to you and on Jay Burden and Todd's podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, as the flattening of dialect like gets worse and worse, I think it'll be harder and harder to cage people's accents because
Yeah.
we're all going to the
Well,
universal
we'll
American
speak
media language.
Swahili Cantonese one day.
At least I can click and not be accused of being racist or something. That'll be interesting
That
at the
was a
minimum.
great tweet. That one guy, he's like, the guy started clicking. He's like, "You racist?" He goes, "Oh, I can tell that you're probably from Swahili language or whatever." Yeah,
Oh
advanced
man.
racism is always correct.
Imagine that guy was just a linguist though, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I've clocked you," or something, and he's actually speaking his native tongue. That'd be great.
That was like Cotton Hill with Khan. He's like, "No, he's not. He's Laotian, aren't you, Mister Khan?" And like, and Khan had just like a transcendental experience. No. But it's funny because I remember with Bob, the first thing we talked about was Heidegger, and I believe the second topic was him asking who is Chris Chan, and that's we had like a 5 hour conversation on Heidegger
Oh
and Chris
no.
Chan. So
Oh no. What are the Heideggerian implications of Chris Chan? How about
well,
that?
like we tried to bridge it, but like it just couldn't be done. So it was more of like expounding upon the lore of Chris Chan. And near the end, he goes, to this day, he'll always say, Gio, the first thing I ever regretted with you was asking you who Chris Chan was.
Well, that's the
Oh,
fact that you couldn't bridge it, I think is that's a Baudrillardian point. When he talks about the revenge of the object in
oh
Fatal
yeah.
Strategies, when he talks about, oh, the scientist dares to examine the particle, like who do you think you are? The object, especially these media simulated objects, always get the revenge and say, no, we're inscrutable. You see, you're not allowed to really understand what's going on here. And same thing for the Chris Chan phenomena, I think.
Well, we'll get to that. But have you ever read the book? And I tried desperately, but the guy will never do an interview again on it, which is very unfortunate because it's a quality book of art criticism. Have you ever heard of Warhol Chris Chan, the book?
Warhol? No, I have not.
Well, this guy basically treats Chris Chan as like a contemporary internet based artist, and he uses a lot of art criticism from like analyzing modern art after the death of the avant-garde with Andy Warhol. He throws in some, I think he does throw some references to Baudrillard and to yeah, and to Deleuze. So it's really crazy. But like basically Chris Chan's like the first DIY anarcho schizo like internet based artist that has like used very primitive understandings of technology to his own advantage. Even just things like the way he would do text would be, and of course the comics are never lined up the way that traditional comic books are, because that's the way he is. Sorry, she is. Sorry, I don't mean,
Oh, yeah,
actually no.
yeah.
Well, I can say he on YouTube because Chris Chan admitted that the whole trans thing was basically just an op. But anyways, so Chris Chan would like scan pages and he would like print them out with the text and then rescan them to get like and he would like do recolors and oh it was brutal. But anyways,
That's
Michael
actually
Cole.
fascinating. Oh yeah, hi. What's up, bud?
No, say what you're gonna then we'll do the intro.
Oh,
Say what you're gonna
yeah. I
say.
was gonna say the Chris Chan as artist, I think is a interesting conception, especially like, especially since we're talking about Baudrillard, like as an ironical strategy,
Mm-hmm.
in how this is so his theory of sacrifice and self-effacement about how that directs the other
Yeah.
into a space of occupying like confusion, and you don't know what to do with it, like the
But he
game of
says it's
chance.
almost a necessity in some respects. Yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating. I'm gonna pick up that book. That sounds awesome.
What about sacrifice in particular, and how would he different like okay, what book are you referring to when Butcher talks about
Yeah,
sacrifice?
I actually have this highlighted. I don't know if you mind me reading a little bit from
Yeah,
this
go
book.
ahead, because I wonder if it's any different from Gerard's, famous thesis
Yes.
on yeah.
Yeah, it is. Let me see. Let me find it. I had it bookmarked. Da 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 da
All
da.
those years of university just to
Yeah, I know. Yeah, dude, especially me.
just to do a podcast, which is based though. Yeah.
Let's see. He says, oh, so he's talking about May of '68 in this passage about,
Oh, I think I
yes,
know. Yeah, but go ahead, go
yes.
ahead. Yeah.
This was the non-concentric tactic of May '68 to force power to coincide with its own non-simulated exercise, precisely through multiple decoys and to make power appear as repressive and apparently naive and useless objective. And like he goes on to say like earlier about the strategy of intelligent subversion, and that's not you as an actor or as this naive human subject, avoiding those aims, and actually what your goal is to manipulate the other into the obscene and into uh going into
Yeah.
the cognitive dissonance space. But that's the point I was gonna make there, where it's that what's the use of sacrificing oneself to prove this, but that there's the trap, forcing it to be more repressive than it was in reality. And we can see that with the great bullying of Christian all the way down
Mhm.
into the rabbit hole.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And then the Geno Samuel documentary, but, um, it's funny though. I think in some ways, like, could you say that that's the opposite of the Gerardian sacrifice, that instead it's from the perspective of the sacrificer rather than the sacrificee?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think Gerard, is much more of a Christian conception of sacrifice, whereas
Oh, yes.
Baudrillard is typifying like the inverse of it. It's like we live in this
Post-Christian
weird,
world of
yeah,
sacrifice.
yes, and so everything is reversed, and that's why it remains so confusing.
No, that's the truth. I mean, no, I think that, man, why didn't I take a see? Now I know why my old man smoked for 40 years. He still does,
Yeah.
but 2 pack a day. But, no, I think that, Baudrillard is very much like a thinker of coming to terms with a lot of things. I mean, even the way that he abandoned, Marxism in his earlier work. I mean, it was sort of a recognition of what you talked about before with Jay Burden about the abandoning of the dialectic, but we still have to get the intro, but we'll pick up that thought. I wanted to read you this one tweet from my good friend
Mhm.
Nightmare Vision, and I thought like that was apropos for what you were saying. Depicting my enemy so haplessly dejected and defeated that I end up sympathizing with his alienation and hoping he finds a way to overcome the world. Then I responded, sometimes you must harden your heart, but other times this attitude is correct. At least it's a godly path in some ways. Our enemies live in a mental hell of their own making. So I think that in a way, that is a weird sort of I mean, a lot of it's probably just right wing cope for the fact that we don't have power. But when you think of the way in which you depict the sacrificee, it's very telling and in a sort of in a way there's sort of like a biblical level of sympathy when it comes to depicting your enemies as these soul not soulless but these sort of like
These broken
broken
things.
husks.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
100% agree. So, but intro? Do we need to roll the intro?
Yeah, of course. But no, I'm just thinking about this thought. I'm just lingering in a thought. And
Oh,
this,
okay.
no, but I think like, what's your perspective on that? How do you think? You know what? Let's do the intro. Then we'll get back to the sacrifice topic. But there's many things to cover because I feel like this isn't going to be the first episode with me and you. So, it's been a long time coming, Mike of Paul. So,
I
Mike
know
of,
it.
yeah, man. What were you going to say?
Oh no, I was just gonna say I know it. It's funny. I've been enjoying the my re-immersion into Twitter space and reconnecting with all friends and making new friends, especially
Hmm.
now.
You know what's funny? You remind me of your profile picture. You know what it reminds me of? Where you for those, I'll probably put it up. I'm sorry, I'm just finishing my American Spirit
Of course.
green. Um, I like the blacks, but the blacks sometimes are too much. So
Yeah,
when
I
I'm
agree.
writing, I save the blacks. I mostly use gum, but like so, I don't know, cigarettes are just. Anyways, this your profile picture reminds me of it's a special forces unit in the sort of the gully suit, not the gully suit, the wetsuit gear, where it's like, is this even real? This is dystopia, and it's got the pit vipers, which unfortunately was I became pit vipers became cool. Like there's these tech
Yes.
pros, that have the profile picture with the pit vipers, but it's yeah. But what's funny is it reminds me of there was this Nobody TM edit where it was a man. It was one of these like schizo preppers. I think because I remember nobody would tell me that him and the team would have to go to heroic lengths to secure certain videos of people on the edge. But it was this guy like fiddling around with I believe it was either a shotgun or a Mosin Nagant. Um, and the text was, "We are in a war of images." And
Oh yeah.
yeah, I think you remember that one, because I
Oh
remember posting. I would post it periodically, but have you did you ever come across Nobody TM or,
so that's the thing. I'm only on Twitter because I recently, like this last year, got a based roommate and I was kind of just like a forum lurker forever. And then he was like, "Yo, have you ever been on Twitter? Like Elon bought Twitter and it's gotten better." And I was like, "I don't care, like
eh,
I'll go from whatever board to whatever they're linking, on Twitter and just look at it." So, I wasn't really a Twitter guy as well. So it's a lot of this stuff is like the Twitter sphere is actually kind of new to me. I've really just been like
yeah.
the dungeon a dungeon lurker forever, and then
Well,
my buddy was
Nobody
like,
TM
"Get on
got
Twitter."
popular. Nobody TM got blah, Nobody TM got popular on 4chan though, and it was only till the beginning of Frog Twitter, people like me and a few others went to the Twitterati with Nobody TM. But
Ah, see,
yeah,
the
I
deep
mean,
lore. I'm missing so much deep lore because
yeah,
like I've been
yeah,
in and out, especially like on the trades. I can't be online all day. So it's much harder for me to
yeah.
keep up, especially in my internet formative years or whatever. There's probably a humdog thing about like becoming in the internet or something like
Oh
that,
yeah,
like
oh
where
yeah.
you find your image or something.
Yeah, exactly. But it's funny because like nobody TM. Well, the site is gone though. Unfortunately, like you can go to the Wayback Machine. There's archives though of all the videos. One of the um, last truly great video artists in the tradition of like Namjoon Pike and other people, but way darker, way more gnostic, way more politically. I mean, the first few seasons are politically driven of Nobody TV, but it's funny because like a lot of the e-right aesthetic that has been built up from Sam Hyde through other like even like semi normie content like what's that one video game Trauma Squad or was it
Oh yeah, Cruelty Squad, Cruelty
Cruelty
Squad.
Squad, yeah. Like that type of editing that mixes a lot of early 2000s like Bryce 3D intelligent drum and bass set visuals and a lot of like very gritty like 2010s deep fried meme type of stuff, but also like very traditional video editing, music concrete type of stuff, but with
Mhm.
with images. Like the Nobody TM, I have a thesis that Nobody TM was basically like the genesis of this. So the most popular video, and I believe I have the most on YouTube. I have the top comment is it's called You, and this is also, by the way, people don't know this, but this is how E. Michael Jones got popular by Nobody TM because you became very popular on 4chan, where it's a video of these white girls in a twerking class, and there's like grainy video, and it's a lecture overhead of a lecture by E. Michael Jones talking about his book Libido Dominandi and how the certain nation in the Middle East with their certain defense force, I don't know if I could say it on YouTube,
Yes.
but they would play Prawn again, another YouTube OPSEC where Prawn, they when it was the Intifada in Ramallah in 2002, he was interviewing Palestinians. He was like talking to Palestinian students who were there when they imposed these curfews. And the first thing that the Nation Middle East Defense Force took over were the TV stations and the radio stations, and they would
I'm familiar. Yeah, I'm familiar
yeah
with this phenomenon. Yeah, it's
they would play nonstop prawn to yeah so, yeah. Go ahead, Michael Paul.
it's a deeply passivating force, and I think anyone who knows anything, especially in the halls of power, understands this. It's a captivating, it's a super captivating bread and circus, like to the
Yeah, like
point.
prawns
It's
with garlic sauce. That's what we're talking about here.
Yes, that's what we're talking about, and I think a lot of people, especially these data nerds, understand this very well. I mean, the amount of psychological profiling information and cause and effect kind of mass psychology through media. This is something that's fairly well understood. I mean, you don't have to go very far to look at just the beginning of advertising theory and see where like someone with not very good intentions, could go very far. Like, Edward Bernays or Sunstein. What's that Sunstein book? Nudge?
Cass
Yeah,
Sunstein,
yeah,
nudge theory, yes.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
The Obama Obongo czar, Cass Sunstein, who by
yeah.
the way also worked with Adrian Vermeule. So the Fed calves.
Oh God. You see, if the
It
web gets
keeps
worse and
going,
worse.
keeps
I'm
going.
I am so upset that I have those two books. Like they like emanate an evil energy from my bookshelf. I really need to put them in a
I remember,
lockbox.
I remember, I remember Alex Jones. This, but before when he was on YouTube, he had this thing about like Cass Sunstein, the Obama czar. They talked about nudge theory. Nudge theory is they're going to tell you to do something, and they're gonna make it so far they're gonna go right to the edge before they got to shove a Kalashnikov in your face and tell you to do something.
So true.
Instead of a Kalashnikov, it'll be like an M, like it'll be like an M4 variant or something. Well,
Yeah,
what is the American military? Do they still use a variant of the M16, or they've switched over to more of the
the
Remington and
M5.
Colt? Oh, the
No, it's
M5s, but they're the basic like hardware is there, right? Or
yeah, so as far as I know, deployment in numbers of the M5, that new SIG rifle, has not like come
oh, they
into
switched
full
to Sig
force.
and not Colt. Very
Yeah, yeah,
interesting.
yeah. They won the bid for the USGW project, I believe it's called. I can't remember the acronym. I think it's USGW, but it was a project to replace both the squad automatic weapon and to replace the M16.
Yeah.
And they have decided, and they said that the new general issue is going to be the M5. But as far as I can see, everyone's still rocking AR-15 or M16s. So
Yeah, the bulk carriers are very similar and everything. Like it's yeah.
yeah, no, it's the platform. The platform itself has been iterated on in a bunch of different proprietary forms, like to
Yeah.
where you have like air platforms in 9mm, for just like plinking and stuff, all the way up to, I'm building a hunting rifle right now. That's a AR pattern rifle, but it's chambered in a cartridge called 6mm arc. And I mean, you've got all sorts of weird proprietary nonsense. It's been iterated on to
Oh
death.
yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting
But Stoner
interesting
was a
platform.
genius though. I mean that like him and Kalashnikov, they were both,
He was way before his time.
yeah.
The first testing that the army did with the M16 was with a carbon fiber wrapped barrel, which right now is now they figured out the formula for that
Yeah.
carbon fiber wrap to actually sell it to the hunting market, but they had a barrel explode. It was not very good, and they were like fix this now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. But like the soldiers in Vietnam, I believe they had to give them modification kits because the fire rate was just too high to handle in field use. And they had to like the soldiers they would have like tech they would have like tinkers like such as yourself in the field. Like imagine if you were in the 60s, you get drafted, then Michael Paul would have to like figure out a way to like lower the fire rate.
make
And
it
then
make your I would literally have to make your shnikes work, dude. It
yeah.
was bad. There was a lot of issues with the first deployment of the M16 pattern rifles, just with the barrel heat treat. So you would have a wandering zero based on
Yeah.
the heat treat of the barrel. You had fire rate issues. You had ammunition issues. That's a big one
Oh
that a lot of
god.
people forget. That was actually a majority of the issues in Vietnam was the ammo, the binning, and the QA on that ammo that they were getting deployed with was trash. And so a lot of dudes got in a lot of trouble, I'm sure, for that.
Oh god. What was the first major battle? Was it Ladrang where they had all these issues and they had to
Uh
helicopter them in?
yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's I'm not very good with
Vietnam
Vietnam
history.
history. Yeah, I'm a small arms history. That's all I know. I just
Mm.
like, I'm in my goon cave injecting forgotten weapons videos into my veins. That's that's my thing.
Who got the contract for ammo in Vietnam? Was it Remington or
Oh.
was it I forget. It might have
Uh
been yeah, the ones that were they had to switch over, right? Because that
yes.
was yeah.
Ammo contract. Let me see if I can't find it.
'Cause I know in
Shoot.
World War II, like, the Americans had the benefit of, like, the British companies that they basically hard tested a lot of things before they entered the war. Um, yeah.
Ammo. Let me see. Ammo designed. U.S. Army Ordnance Corps during the investigation. In the
Oh,
course
yeah.
of the 5.56 ammunition program, the Army could have elected to reduce the specified velocity, thus avoiding the necessity of developing new propellants. So it looks like it was an issue with the actual propellant they were using.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was that. In all likelihood, I imagine. Were they still making their own powder, or were they subbing out to Hodgdon? It might have been. Or Hodgson wasn't big back then neither. Okay, so it wasn't them. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, yeah, but that I think they resolved it, but that must suck in the field, like, having misfires and, like, what are you gonna do in
Dude,
this new rifle platform? It's
I
like,
can't imagine just being like
oh my
and
god.
the meme was for the longest time that this rifle was brought to you by Mattel. I mean, that was
Yeah,
because they were
yeah,
like, "What am I gonna do with this hunk of junk? It's aluminum and plastic, It's
yeah,
I want my good wood and steel." And so even then, we had the FUDs. It's just like, we'll take some. Yeah, they can't afford like a warfighter doesn't have time to sit there and be like, "Okay, I'll let the engineers figure it out," because he's getting shot at. Like, what do you want
yeah.
him to do? He's screwed.
By the North Vietnamese with Kalashnikovs that have been hard tested for years at that point, and kid like they're barely like like the Terminator of rifles. But I don't know. People go back and forth. They say that the AR platforms are also as equally reliable. But it's
Yeah,
all it's the memes, right? It's
yeah.
the
Nowadays that is true. In the early days, it was true that there was a significant difference in
oh yeah,
reliability.
yeah. But man, I'm fascinated by. I guess we're all fascinated by the history of the 20th century. Um, like me and Prude, we always talk about the Bush years because we feel like a lot of what happened in the Bush years are not paid attention to as much as they should, and really a lot of the foundation of like what we're seeing nowadays was laid out in those years. But even because I think but people are starting to become more aware of that. I think people are like me because millennials are entering like an older age, and so we're more nostalgic for those times. But it seems that like because of Trump, the Obama years, the Obongo, the one big ass mistake America. I love those. I love those conservative boomer memes. With Obama. But like it seems like that people are like the Obama years become a distant memory or they become erased, and now it's like the Bush years up until Trump is like the I don't know. Maybe that's just my perception, but um, what's funny is that the recent article on Tablet about Obama, a lot of people went with like he's in the closet or whatever, but the real story is probably his relation to like political radicalism. That's like probably the bigger story that people are getting sidetracked. Like the bigger story that's getting sidetracked by the more juvenile story about him being like whatever and Michael Robinson and can I
Yeah,
say
I
Michael
mean,
Robinson on YouTube? I don't know.
yes.
I don't
Well,
know.
I mean, that is the truth. Because I mean, anyone who knows anything should know that Obama's intellectual priors were an
Yeah,
anti-colonial
and they were
kind of like.
purposely obscured by his biographers, except for Gallows. But
Yes,
yeah,
yes. Yeah, see, that's the thing that I think should concern everyone more because Obama seems to have surpassed Mr. Clinton, in kind of like the race for the head of the shadow party.
yes, yes,
And so him being kind of the diktat, extraordinaire of democratic machine politics on the national level, I mean, should be way more concerning to like the average boomer con for sure.
yeah.
You
The,
know,
I knew it. I knew he was in the closet when I was memeing on Facebook back in 2012. you know?
back when I was fed posting on Facebook and oh, oh no, oh no, I'm so
No.
sorry.
Oh no, R.I.P. to a legend.
Yeah.
But oh god. It's
Uh,
funny though how a boomer like can just like fed post away on Facebook and then like the ultimate poetic consequence of his untimely demise at the hands of the federal government just immediately validates all of like the schizo boomer fed posting. It's like
yeah, that's the way it always goes. There's
yeah.
always uh but I think Baudrillard writes about this a little bit in Fatal Strategies, and he's got a small little pamphlet book that's a 1 year postmortem on on the September 11th attacks,
Oh yeah, that's
called the Spirit of T-wordism. And he talks about
spirit of fun
how,
posting.
yeah, the spirit of fun posting, yes. He talks a little bit about this reprisal is actually like a bigger event than the event itself, and the
Yeah.
event is kind of mysticized, if you will. Like, yeah, I'm summing up like very very crudely, but that is a concept that runs through Baudrillard's work because he likes to, France. Of course, he's got to talk about fun posting because they've got a unfortunate
Long
history with it.
history of that. Yeah, with from Algeria all the way up until yeah,
Yeah,
present.
prolific, you could say. They were prolific in it.
Oh yes. Oh yes. It's very funny how May 68 happened, but at the same time in Prague, you have the Prague Spring in 68, and it's like they're fighting against communism. In France, they're fighting for communism. And it's like, but then I think even Baudrillard realized that it was a very like I think he said this in Forget Foucault, where it's like this very effete thing where it's like academics like Foucault, like they're joining their students throwing bricks off the ceiling, but it's like they're still getting tenure. So it's like, what's the point? It's like
Right.
every bread tuber it's like Hassan Piker talking about as much as I have devoted years of my life to studying Michel Foucault, it's like it's similar to Hassan Piker talking about like late capitalism and like driving what does he drive? Some sports car. Um I don't
Couldn't tell
know. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Like, I
you.
mean, not
Couldn't
that I
tell.
care, but it's
Also,
just
also couldn't be me because look at my life. My dollar ain't.
yeah.
Uh, how do you feel about this whole phenomena with the Oliver Anthony deal? I did want to poke your brain about that a little
Hmm.
bit if you had any hot takes. Because I posted that, well, just looking at the cinematography of that one video, it's a multicam setup. Seems to be
What were we
framed.
talking about here, Oliver Anthony?
Yeah, that country song that's blown up.
Oh, that one. Yeah, with the
Yes.
steel guitar, steel. Yeah,
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 I posted what I say, big brain take, basically the setup plus the story seems to me, and plus there's a bunch of the React but for cash channels coming out and reacting to it now, and there's a bunch of 1 million level accounts that I'm sure are getting paid for it. I think the guy's under really hit management or he's getting screwed real bad. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
it,
He's
it's
getting yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I hope he gets a dollar out of it for sure. But I wanted to know if you had any hot takes on that whole situation, or
I think that I know people aren't gonna like this, but I think it was RFH, our good friend. By the way, I mean, I'm not joking. And she's been nice to me,
okay,
but
good.
one of the I think RFH has like the best handle I've ever seen in my life. Hollow Earth Turf. That's like that's like so next level. People don't comprehend this. Like, I hope she's listening to this because that's pretty amazing. I'm gonna shout her out. No, but I think it was her that had this hot take, or was it someone else? It may have. I think I'm pretty confident it was her that said like basically this guy's getting taken for a ride by the Daily Wire and by like Matt Walsh and like people that are in like conservative boomer media TM. And I haven't, forgive me, but I haven't actually listened to the song. What are the lyrics? They're sort of like calling out like
Oh, it's
libs. I don't know.
well, no, it's more like a lot of the React tubers are saying this or pushing this as kind of a narrative. This is not necessarily a political song. So he
Mhm.
says in the song that I've been wasting my life away working overtime hours, bull pay, and he goes on and on about like just the struggle of stretching a dollar that's going, shorter and shorter for what you need to live. And then he says, I wish politicians would care or look out for miners, right? As in people who work the coal mines.
Yeah.
Appalachia has been abandoned forever. And I think, as a small insular culture, they've actually kind of realized a self defeat.
Yes.
It's like psychologically because they realize that there's no one coming back for them. They
Yeah.
realize that they are truly left behind. And one of my roommates, all of his family is from Appalachia, and whenever he goes back for family reunions, just abject poverty. Everyone is 90 years old or 80 years old because everyone younger than that has like, you
Fled.
know, yeah. Well, it's worse than that. Redacted or
Or
are under
yeah,
a hole. Yeah,
yeah.
in a hole, just on their way to get fentanyl. So man, it's
Well,
rough.
now
And
there's this normie sadism against Southerners, especially the Appalachians, with the civil, like, you know, let's face it, people that are probably not like heritage American, they have this now. It's become this source of like normie sadism towards the South and towards the post Reconstruction South, and like there was this great Mystery Grove tweet, RAP to his account that
RIP.
yeah was posted. Uh, it was such a great one, but it was one of these people talking about how every single Civil War soldier should have been redacted, and uh, the Mr. Gov tweet was, libs have this complex where they say that Reconstruction should have lasted longer because it was like the beaming, glowing example of civil democracy
Oh my
and the civic
lord.
religion of America. And lib professors said this Reconstruction should have lasted longer because it would have resembled the Khmer Rouge against
Oh my
the
god.
South. Yeah.
Oh, dude, that is that is horrible. But I mean, it rings true. Even
Yeah.
people who are just regular default libs or something, they kind of have this subconscious understanding that, oh, but that's what I want. Like they'll
Yeah.
reach for, yeah, no, the
It's
oppression.
safe edgy to them. It's safe edgy.
Yeah, it's the oppression of these people, even in an ironical sense.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but it's cool. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And yeah, that is something that I have a deep allergy to. Especially being a Southerner. I just hate that this has become like the prevailing wisdom in our enlightened world, that somehow the South continues to be both this like ignorant evil thing that can't do anything right, but also deserves everything bad that comes to it because they did everything wrong as well. Like you can't you can't hold this as a moral standard above people, especially as like a geopolitical concern. I
Hmm.
mean, do you not think that that's going to make the U.S. Less contiguous over time as you divide these people who are nominally countrymen, away for worse and worse, even worse than after the resolution of the Civil War and after the leaving of forces from Reconstruction, where,
Hmm.
well, we're going back to normal now after Reconstruction's over. So let's just all chill. And then it only takes so much time for the evil North to come back and say, well, actually, no, I don't want to go back to normal. All of that was good. It's so evil. It's so evil. I'm sorry. I'm just
Well,
stammering
that's
at this point.
no, but of that's the incoherency of the GAE, the Global American Empire, in that they still want to have Bush era "we are the global policeman" interventionism, and the scary implications of that in Eastern Europe and in the Strait of Taiwan. Uh, you know, but the sort of Kshatriya stock of America has always been the Appalachians in
Yeah.
other parts of the South, like in Texas. I believe when it comes to the officer class, California still is the largest drafting pool. But when it comes to frontline infantry, the largest drafting pool has always consistently been, for at least 100 years in America, Texas and Alabama, and then I think Louisiana and Missouri, and
Yeah.
then maybe like some like some prairie states like Nebraska have
Yeah.
like this sort of founding Kshatriya class stock of like Anglo Dutch, Anglo Irish young, men who really, they really do provide the best like fighting force in America. And those people are being like utterly destroyed and decimated. So like the lib world order is fundamentally incoherent in the sense of like their vision of the perfect super soldier is the same vision of the perfect subject, which is like essentially a beyond woman, uh, you know, beyond woman phenotype with a rainbow, a rainbow patch going off into Ukraine, and that's like, that's their vision of but the reality being is that, when it comes to the mercenaries that the empire has provided for the Ukrainians, I mean, they still largely are of this Kshatriya class. A lot of them have been like Iraq and Afghanistan war veterans who have beyond woman themselves, unfortunately. But you know what I mean? Like it is quite crazy how the times that we're living in, there's this incoherency where, this like everything has to become more ramped up and more reified and in your face. So Southerners, they're no longer dumb yokels, that marry their sisters and whatever. Now they have to be like evil, proto, like the South was like proto Austrian painter levels of cartoonishly evil. And therefore, basically every Southerner has the mark of Cain nowadays, the mark of evil. So the Malakya. So it's like
Yeah. It's
it,
well,
yeah,
it's
yeah. The
it's
incoherency of the empire is quite something to observe.
Yeah, it's transformed from like a an ignorant like I perceive the South as like an ignorant evil all the way to actually these people are some sort of wild beast, you know, that
Yeah.
is their hunger can never be sated for evil. That's what they feed on. You know, that it's absolutely preposterous, but yeah. Anyway. Oh, are we ever gonna do the intro? You always do this.
Okay, yeah, I know, I always do this, man. Yeah, you know. So Mike of Paul, what do you do? Who are you? Um, do you want to give your profession away, or is that probably not
Oh
OPSEC?
yeah, no. It's all good. Like, yeah, I'm borderline uncancelable because I've got a startup as well. So it's like even
Well,
if I get
you're
fired
a
for
tradesman in the South. That's pretty uncancelable. So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And
you're in
there's
MAGA
a
country.
yeah, I'm in manga country.
Yeah.
That's exactly correct. No, so
How many MAGA flags do you see on your commute to work every morning?
I know I see the new intersectional flag right across the street. That makes me super not happy. Oh man,
Oh
that's
man, you have to put
yeah.
up more MAGA flags just to compensate.
See, my roommates aren't going for it though. He's like, man, we're really gonna start crap with. I mean, his house is 5 foot away from us, so I'm like, do I really want to start crap with this dude? This guy's he's kind of a butthole like EMT as well. Oh, but that's enough about that. I see a few on the way into work, but
There you go.
yeah, I'm a tradesman. I work in like commercial automation programming and HVAC plumbing. I do it all.
Oh
Um,
man,
yeah, so
that's a
yeah,
cut
it's
above
very
like
involved.
ordinary tradesman though. That's getting into the artisan tradesman class. Yeah,
Yeah, it's the gray collar. Yeah, I've always
gray
worked
collar.
in
There you go.
I've always worked in kind of the gray collar where it's like kind of cutting edge. You get a class and then paid for by your work in order to uh, be more technical on some certain piece of equipment or hardware that you've got to program in and integrate into an automation program and stuff like that. And that's been kind of my background forever. And how I ended up coming over here um, to the DR was actually through the gun printers, like people like Cody Wilson
Yeah,
who exposed me to Baudrillard. And it took me a long time to chew on Baudrillard, from like what was that, 2016?
uh,
I was following Cody Wilson and his kind of like, theory selling all the way back into like there's actually a video you can find on YouTube of him like giving like this libertarian group meetup at his college, like, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here is like a theory cell. Let me just theory cell for 30 minutes straight. And and he
yeah. I
just
remember that
goes
Russia
on.
Today interview where you mentioned Foucault.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
he bandies himself about as a postmodernist because he sees that there's a praxis in there. And that's kind of like how I've ended up here as well, is because like obviously no one else will take me, for sure.
mm.
Uh, but that's content. Also, can I do a bit? I
Yeah.
told
Do a bit, please.
okay, so I told Dimes that I was Dimes of the Blood Satellite
Uh,
podcast,
Good friend of
that
ours.
a good friend on Twitter.
On
He
Twitter.
I was like, hey, I'm gonna take over Gio's show, so watch this.
It's not content minded. When the giant Gio and Micah Paul step in the ring, it is
Content satellite.
That's amazing. I hope there's no copyrighted material there. So
It's not. Oh man. So yeah, shout out to Dimes. So we're taking over the show. This is gonna be content satellite now.
content.
So
That'll be like the title of this stream of this episode. Content satellite.
but
Oh,
I slowly faded in from like my college years over to more right
I'm
leaning
assuming
thought.
you're a millennial.
Yeah, I'm a really young millennial. So I
You're
actually like,
Xennial.
yeah, I sympathize more with my brother. He's core Gen Z. So me and him, like, we bandy about with for real and no
Yeah,
cap. And so I'm kind
I'm
of
core millennial. I'm 30-year-old old T word. So
I I think that's given me an immunity to irony poisoning
yeah,
though.
yeah.
I think that's interesting because I see a bunch of other people get irony poisoned super easily, and it just doesn't happen to me. Like, I can for real no cap, and it doesn't affect me. And then, everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sick of this. We're gonna irony poison ourselves." And I'm like, "Well, I haven't yet. I don't understand."
Yeah. Like millennials do everything indirectly. It's funny because I don't know why, maybe because Prude just mentions it so much, but I started watching BoJack Horseman,
Oh
and
no.
it's like the most millennial show in existence because the like self-deferential, like sort of the self-deferral of responsibility, um, not admitting that you're lonely, so instead you try to like hinder someone from thriving because you want them to be around you.
Yep.
The
Yep.
inability to experience like genuine love. What else? The first like the sort of feeling of wanting to please people yet being a narcissist, terminal irony poisoning to the point where you can't experience any genuine emotion outside of an ironic pastiche that shields your true emotions. Like all of this stuff. I was trying to explain this to a very close person in my life that isn't a millennial. I was trying to explain that, like, listen, this is how millennials are, and it's a very heroic sort of feat to like break ourselves of that because of the conditioning that we've experienced from the tower is falling to 2008 till now. It's very like particular, and I think like as much as BoJack Horseman is like a lot of it is just like Cole. It very much is like the true millennial show.
That rings so
Yeah.
true because I think I like
Yeah, even the nostalgia for the '90s is all there. It's all there. It's all there. And
I
I
think
texted Prude after watching the first episode. I'm like, Prude, this is like the most millennial show in existence. Yeah,
I
sorry, go
think
ahead, Mike.
I think
Yeah,
my birth year was the last birth year to experience that in high school, but it
yeah,
disappeared after that. Like all of that, especially like the emotional handicapping, like going like basically sticking knives in each other's back and
yep,
stuff, and it's all
yeah,
a messy. It's everything's a messy relationship thing. All of a sudden,
yes,
like that
yes.
was all of high school, and then like
Inability to admit feelings,
right,
so
and
you
then
do it through other ways.
my brother gets to high school and everyone is stuck in the screen, and
Hmm.
so I really think I was like the last, like I am the last person to see the real world as it dissipates over the horizon.
Hmm.
But even that millennial real was kind of a pastiche of what like actual emotional connection with your peers would be. And
Yeah,
so even that was like an illusion of real before, and it's just gotten worse and worse. Like there's layers to it. Like the scene of the social in high school now, I'm sure
oh
is
god, can you
it's
imagine?
it's a fourth order simulacra of interacting with people. I'm sure it's all
Oh man.
unreal. Ugh.
But the Zoomer unreality is like, I mean, your brother is a Zoomer, core Zoomer, right?
Yes.
So the Zoomer unreality, I mean, a lot of the fans of mine are Zoomers, so the Zoomer unreality is quite different. I mean, I think they're not as ironic because they've just accepted that this is the way the world is, and the sort of like millennial defeatist, apocalyptic thinking even is sort of like, I want the world to end because I want my life because blah 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 because my life sucks, and it's like, there's no future. But yet the Zoomer irony is almost like, I mean, sorry, the Zoomer defeatism is almost like, I would say, I wouldn't use a meme term like Nietzschean, but it's approaching almost like a positive nihilism rather
Yeah,
than, yeah,
I would say it's embodied by the "it is what it is," for sure.
yeah,
Especially in my brother's case, he yeah, he goes to college where it's not in a good part of town. It's really bad in terms of like shootings and kidnappings and all that. I mean, there's a lot of violent crime where he goes to school. And my brother's like, yeah, there's riots in my college town. So I'm coming back home. And it's not really concerning. He was like, I was a little worried getting out of there, making sure I could get to the highway, but it's all good. He has a very much, especially when stuff
man.
gets bad. He's like, it is what it is, and I'm like,
But don't you
ugh.
think that's unfortunate? Because, like, for example, like, say, I'm assuming your father is like a younger boomer, like my old man. But
Yeah, yeah.
you imagine, like, your parents, right? Like, their generation in that part of your state. Like, isn't it a tragedy that they didn't have, like, not that they didn't have to grow up with violence or whatever, but it's just that, like, I noticed that in the right wing and the E right, like the sentiment of why do we have to live this way in America, or even now in Canada, or in Britain, or like, why is it that you have to tolerate not just a substandard way of life, but but like a very degraded, violent, and increasingly not worth it way of living in the country that our forefathers
Right.
built.
I
Yeah.
think I think the 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 wisdom that I'm receiving is like a defeatism from like my parental boomers and my
Hmm.
younger Zoomer. It like everyone is slowly slipping towards it is what it is because they can't.
Yes.
There's no reconfiguring in their mind to kind of like a metaphysical. They don't even think about these topics. They don't think about like uh, uh, s- uh society as like a metaphysical thing. Like they don't think about it this way, but they're like they know that if there was something more upreaching in sociologically, like in the society, it would be better. And they're like,
Hmm.
I don't know how to even think about that. I don't know how to achieve that. Is that a political thing? Does politics control that? Like the how morally good a society is? That they don't think about it in these terms, and so they're like, well, I don't know how to encapsulate this and like move towards that, so they give up. And I think that's a lot of the black pill, especially like for our scene, is actually coping yourself into it's so over
Yeah.
and over again until you get to it is what it is. And I think that's the ultimate. Like a neutral nihilism is almost worse than a negative nihilism, because
Yeah.
a negative nihilism, you can emerge out of it. Like for instance, whenever I read Zero HP's God Shaped Hole, that
Yeah.
put me in a horrible depression for like a month. I was like, oh my gosh, I just feel so like it, it made me feel a type of oh my gosh, it's so over I'd never felt before. And then after that, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm a Nietzsche and Chad or whatever.
Hmm.
I'm gonna overcome like my sad life and engage in
Well,
more projects and stuff. It's like neutral nihilism captures you forever.
yes. Yeah. What was God shaped hole? I'm getting confused with gig economy, but what was the God shaped hole one about?
Oh, God Shaped Hole was about
Been a while
uh
since I read it. Yeah.
into the future. Basically everyone has the augmented reality goggles all the time.
Oh, yes,
and
that's right. Yeah, and you could
and
like
he
change your landscape and environment, and yeah,
and
pure
hookup
hyper reality.
hookup culture has changed over into you taking control of other people's robots, their robot maids in their house, because everyone's
Hmm.
got one now. And so that's the Tinder hookup culture now. And this guy, our protagonist, is searching for love. I hate this dating reality that we live in. I mean everything. He has
Very
a
millennial, by the way.
yes.
Like Her, that movie, Her.
Yes. Uh,
Yeah.
he he goes on this quest, on a love quest, if you will,
No,
in
love
order
to find a
to,
boyfriend free girl.
to
Yeah.
find a boyfriend free girl, and he finds one, and then it spirals. Like he gets to see the underbelly of the simulation of all of society. Like,
Yeah.
why is it that we wear AR all the time? Why is it that we even block out other people digitally in our periphery, when we're walking down the street? And he gets to, and then the relationship gets really bad in a dramatic twist. And that definitely,
Even ZHP can't escape millennial writing. I hate to say it, but it's true.
I don't
Like,
think millennial writing has to be bad though. I mean, there's a
yeah, you're right.
certain
Millennial doesn't have to be bad. I mean, but it's just that when people say millennial writing, it's like, oh, here we go. Like it's yeah, but of course, a lot of that was from Gen Z as well. Sorry, Gen X as well. Like the failed relationship. Very like, I mean, millennials watching Seinfeld reruns type of deal. But yeah, go ahead, Michael Paul. Yeah.
what I was gonna say is yeah, I have a theory, and let me spitball this at you.
Yeah,
Just
go
see
ahead.
just see where you think it's at. I think that this kind of, I don't know, like Anglo melancholy, or like what does Thomas 77 say? The white man is melancholy alone, or something
Yeah,
like that. That
the white
sort
man
of
goons alone. I remember someone and then Marnite tweeted that. I can never get that out of my head. The white man goons alone. No
but
Discord server of gooning.
that is what I think there is kind of some sort of biospirit thing going on there,
Oh yeah.
where there's something about the European dude who just likes to be somber, and I see that in millennial writing is that kind of reserved, very very simmering kind of sadness.
Oh, it's even in
Like
tweeting. Yeah.
yeah, it's even in tweeting or any media project, like especially like millennial like cover art or something like that, or
Yeah.
there's this yeah, they're trying to capture what that melancholy feeling is. And I don't think I think that as an expression of art, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's actually an
It's like the
interesting space to be.
2010s Tumblr post of like you find a damaged woman and you're kissing her wounds and her arm,
Oh
and
God. Oh,
that's
okay. No, that's the worst. No, that's the worst level. I don't want that. I want
Ah!
something a little bit better than that.
A little more heroic than that,
A
yes, in
little
romance.
more. Oh
But
Lord.
you go ahead. I disrupted your point with like that Tumblr 2010s trauma core type of but
We're
yeah,
all
go
just
ahead.
we're all trauma core on the inside. Let's just face it.
Yeah.
Oh no. I think
You know,
that
I used to think that getting a GF would solve like the sort of millennial incel idea of like getting a GF is sort of like a magic heavenly bullet that will solve all of your problems and take away all of your anxieties and worriment about yourself. But actually, it just creates even more emotional problems. It creates different
what
emotional
no,
problems.
that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I have horrible taste in women. They're all every single one of them has been borderline schizophrenic, and that's my own fault. Um, oh yeah, I had an ex. She locked
No,
herself.
and by the way, this has nothing to do with my GF. This is all personal. This is all nothing to do. Listen, babe, if
Disclaimer.
you're listening to me, which she usually she doesn't usually listen, but like if you're listening to this, please, I don't mean you. I mean it's internal emotional disposition because I am a millennial and we have this, like you were saying, somber melancholy about our life and loneliness and inability to express proper feelings. And but no, I think every relationship is like that. It switches out certain emotional problems for other worriments. And but yeah, go ahead. I'm actually curious to hear about your schizo girlfriends, Michael Paul. But you were saying about millennial writing.
Oh
We're
yeah.
getting ahead of ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. We're skipping around. Millennial writing, I think, especially in that moody, in kind of that moody tone where
Yeah.
it's emerging from trauma core because that's the social expression of that feeling that they're trying to capture, and so that's the only thing they can kind of refer back to is this kind of social dynamic of trauma core essentially. When they're reaching for melancholy, when it becomes really good, it actually enumerates a different a whole bunch of different facets of a character development, because the reason that this man is stewing is specific to him. There's many specificities that you can learn about someone if you kind of look at them and analyze what are they somber about, what are they melancholy about. Does the man sit and drink a coffee? There's something that gets you closer to the soul of a man to know
Mhm.
what he bows his head and thinks about. And I think that is an interesting development. It's the masculine urge to just ponder, and stew in something until you figure it out. And I think that's an interesting dynamic, and I think that is what millennial writing is reaching for. Tell me if you
Yeah.
think that's true. I'm just spitballing, but I think that's what it's reaching for.
I think when it comes to personal stories of romance and unrequited love, then this is true. But I think the pop term of millennial writing being like that very annoying, very ironic, very politically driven, but only like on a surface level politically driven, like just casual references to blah blah blah, but never trying to like really dive into political ideas, but rather it all come like basically when people talk about millennial writing, they mean goonlit. And I don't mean like gooning. I mean the something awful goon, right?
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So not there's different terms of gooning, but goonlit is very much like this. Painfully millennial, hyper politically focused, idealistic but yet embittered. But
Yeah,
when it comes to personal relationships, the inability to actually express any sort of honesty of one's own longings or feelings because on the one hand, the whole like 2010s experiment of trying to, in some ways, perfect the sexual YouTube term, actual revolution, to sort of perfect it in the sense of hardening your heart towards any sort of quote unquote catching feelings, and the inability to express feelings because you feel vulnerable and you feel like there's a fundamental sincerity and vulnerability. So women don't do it. Millennial women don't do it because they were taught that men are evil. Millennial men don't do it because they were taught that we're losing frame, and therefore you have gender war discourse that is basically hurt people telling other hurt people it's all your fault, and vice versa. And I feel like millennial writing can be quite poetic and beautiful if it's expressed in this sort of, like you were saying, overcoming the impulse to mask or defer or outright destroy one's own genuine feelings and sentiments. And I feel like millennial writing can be saved because there was a moment where the confessional became everything, but then the confessional became weaponized and politicized, or became in the service of something other than confessing one's true feelings in a sea of irony. The confessional then was destroyed because it then started to cater to Zoomers who were coming of age around the end of the 2010s. And now it becomes this hyper political, like, no longer am I confessing my bad string of romances. Now I'm confessing my bad string of romances as a non-binary MB kid. And oh, by the way, the patriarchy must be smashed, or blah, blah, blah. So it's
Right.
like, yeah. So I think like millennials, I talked to this with Marty Phillips because he is very much a millennial writer. And he said, millennials have to contemplate like how we're going to leave our legacy, because we're on the way out now already because of the way that the information technology society has permeated into the fast burnout of a unified subject. And now generational thinking is even more accelerated. Now it's no longer, it's the Zennials, now it's the Zoomers, now it's Gen Alpha. So millennials have to seriously contemplate like how we're going to leave this thing and how we're going to enter into more of a, like, how can we even contemplate entering a mature life? Not because millennials are just like in a permanent state of a permanent state of, how shall I say, deferred adulthood, um but also like how are we going to enter into a state of reconciling that deferred adulthood, but also having to embrace a maturity that is meaningful to us. That's a very terrifying thought.
I think you
Yeah.
put it as a man that's considered this more deeply than me. I think you that's perfectly well put, and that's probably a deeper explanation
Oh, thank you.
than my reaching for analogy. But I think that's at least
Oh,
a
go ahead.
core
Reach for an
element.
analogy. How would you put it?
No. My analogy before, talking about that reaching and overcoming,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
with millennial writing. But I think that's probably a better explanation of the baseball field as a whole. If you want the inside baseball on the millennial mind, Gio's your man. Couldn't be beaten.
Well, Marty
But
Phillips is pretty great too, but yeah.
yes,
Go and
yeah.
buy Millennium if you want a good piece of writing from this thing of ours. So
Listen, anyone Gio tells you to buy something from, just that's an auto buy.
yeah,
Everybody,
go and
come
buy
on now.
Mystery Grove. Go and buy Nutcracker. If you want to know about true millennial experiences with romance and politics, go and buy Nutcracker by Dan Baltic. Have you read Nutcracker?
No, I have not.
You have to read You have to crank, man. You have to
No,
nut.
no.
You must
Whoa.
nut.
Hold on.
You
Wait.
must nut.
Whoa. Absolutely not. Yeah, I'm pure. I have never nut in my entire life. I've
Okay.
never cranked.
Day 1,000 of no fap. I can taste and hear smells, and I've achieved moksha. My mudra has touched into the 1,000 Buddha lands.
It may be
on
cold. It may be cold, but do you remember Powerful Shaggy meme? It's like
Yeah.
Powerful Shaggy at 100% is 1% of my power. Let's just put it in perspective for you guys and post a little bit of coal.
Oh God. Speaking of posting millennial coal, you said you dated a lot of schizo women.
Oh yeah. Oh, the schizo women story. Oh, I was
Oh
trying to
boy.
escape this. I was trying to sneak out the back and not do this.
I find this very interesting, so go ahead.
Hey, thanks for recording. Anyway, I'm out of here. So I my the my
Was
first
it nuclear level top, by the
yes.
way?
Oh
Oh,
oh oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But that came with some baggage, and this is the received
it was
wisdom that everybody
Chernobyl,
has.
Katya, the top floor level top. So, sorry, no, Masha. Masha was the top one that
Oh god.
they had to put the bio robots on. But yeah, go ahead. Go
Dude,
ahead.
I needed some sort of robot to contain this woman. Oh my gosh, it was insane. She would lock herself in the bathroom and bang her head against the wall
Oh my
in like
god.
oh yes,
Oh,
in like a desperation plea thing. Like it's like, hey babe, I came and hung out with you for the whole weekend. I'm sorry, I gotta go back to work. You know where I work. It's all the way, 2 towns over. She was like, no. Oh man, it was nuclear level insanity is what it was.
oh
Oh man,
my
and then
god.
my other act. Oh man, I made the horrible decision to date a woman that had a little bit of hood rat in her as well.
Oh
And
no.
oh
Oh
no,
no.
it was oh man, she was insane as well. And she would go. Do you know what hitting a lick is by any chance?
I think I've heard of the term, but please enlighten us.
Hitting a lick means going to rob someone. Current objective, rob a dude. Uh
Okay, yeah, yeah.
that's what hitting a lick was. My hood rat ex would she her car broke down. She was like, "Hey babe, can I borrow your car?" And I thought her hood rat pass was behind her, and then it came to light that she was going with some of her girlfriends, her other hood rat girlfriends, and going and like robbing stuff out of cars and stuff like that.
You can take the shoddy out the hood, but you can't take the
Take
hood
the
out the
hood out the
shoddy.
shoddy. Oh man, it's for real.
So
And
she robbed someone with your car?
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So, oh
Oh
man,
my god.
that's a whole that woman was a
She
whole
got caught,
story.
right? And your plates are
No,
run. Oh.
no. So the way I figured it out is because she every time she would go say she was hanging out with like whoever, and I got one of these GPS trackers, and I looked around and then I watched news reports because I was like, look, I think something's going wrong because like there was some pattern recognition involved here.
This is insane. Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh, it's bad. No. It's bad because I started feeling like things were getting worse and worse. Like something's not right. I think she's cheating on me, and so I wanted.
Didn't she know that she was dealing with like a tech illiterate, like a tech literate tinker tradesman, that you were going to do something like this? So,
Maybe I don't know. It all blew up, and eventually, like that argument got so bad that she got drunk and totaled that car. So yeah,
oh my god.
yeah. So
Did she cheat on you?
no, she didn't, or I
Oh,
don't
it was,
believe she
but you
did.
figured out she was robbing people at
Yeah,
this.
because I confronted her about it, and she was like, "Oh, me," like, and she just like after a big argument, she was like, "Okay, me and my girlfriend were going hitting a lick, but we didn't take your car, but we didn't take your car," and I knew immediately because she
She
was
was
like, "Yeah,
lying.
yeah," she was lying. She was like, "We went and picked up like Key's car or something like that, or some of her, they've got pseudonyms and stuff like that because they in the streets." I'm like, okay, yeah,
Oh my
no, this is game
god.
over. Yeah,
This
I've
is
got
terrible.
bad taste in women. It's horrible.
I'm, I'm very glad I'm dating a nice woman. Oh god. Very glad.
Yeah, be
You
glad
know?
that your girlfriend isn't committing crimes, dude. Oh
Oh
my
man.
gosh.
Well, I mean, every woman's crazy in their own way, but it's just that's incredible, man.
No. Let's Geo post. No woman can be crazy when she's in your heart.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's true. That
I
was
think
well.
I
Didn't I
like the
say?
Geo. I really like the Geo wholesome arc,
Yeah,
actually.
7 you love is a 12. I said that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Or no,
The
you
mid
also said,
discourse.
yeah, you said a mid in your heart cannot be a mid in your eyes and stuff like that. Yeah, it's great. That
Yeah.
is sincere. Like I
Very
new
wholesome chungus.
I want to push new sincerity like back 10 years, like just like shoot that into the past because I think genuine sincerity it's coming back, boys. It's coming back in a big way. Looks like meat's back on the menu. I
Yeah.
think that returning to true sincerity is something that we're going to see as a phenomenon, and we're going to have, I think, a whole bunch of art depicting like maybe young Zoomers right now, like coming into being sincere again, and it's actually going to be true. I think that's going to be interesting. That's my prediction. You know, like I'll bet you $5 on it, but I think that will happen. Struggling to come back to sincerity.
I think out of necessity. I mean, but they're like, I think millennials have to I mean, as much as I like girlfriend, you know, I like exploring other people's relationships.
Please don't. Not anymore. Not anymore. I already told too much. Oh God, this is horrible.
Oh my God. What happened with the schizo? Did you break it up? How did you break it up?
Oh, I broke it up over, there was a whole week that I was out of town, and then the day before, or the day that I was on the way back from working out of town, texted her and was like, "Hey, I'm breaking that, like I can't do this anymore." And then she came over and she was like, "No, it's not true, right?" And like gave me the like full on manipulative puppy dog. And then
Whoa.
I was like, "No, no, no, it's really over." And then she took all my stuff out of her car and just threw it in the street. So that was fun.
God.
Oh
Whoa.
yeah. I got it bad.
But,
can we move on? Can we read Baudrillard or something, please?
but the bedroom experience must have been amazing, though.
Oh, dude, it was. Oh, it was fine. It was fine. However, I'm never going back. I'm never going back there. It's a bad.
Not just a meme.
No, it's not just a meme. 100%. But this is not life advice. Okay, do as I say. Do as I
don't
say,
ruin your
not as
life
I
for
do.
Crazy Woman because the top is insane.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, that all goes back to, the ancients, right?
Yeah.
The woman who launched 1,000 ships. This
even
this has
Ovid
been
talked about this. Yes.
yeah, this has been a phenomenon. In fact, it's Lindy to have a society with the best top coming from the most schizo. In fact, the more it just stays around. It's a phenomenon that just won't go away.
But like before we get to Baudrillard, I do think that when it comes to the topic of like sexuality, I think that people just have this like memeified version of it, and like when you're actually with like a woman that you do love and respect, it very much is like you discover what each other's needs are, and it's very much not like the pretension of like what people think it is sort of irrelevant, as opposed to like the lived reality of being with someone and how everyone's different. And it's just like, yeah, it's not, people make a meme of it, but I mean, all memes and stereotypes, I think, inevitably have a basis in reality. But I think, like, I don't know, it's just prawns have really prawns with garlic pesto. Prawn has really destroyed people's perceptions of what the sort of living experience is, because now it's like it is more real than real, in the sense of like something that can channel your desires in an instant, but also can mimic the real, is more destructive than ever. And I think that's probably a good transition from your awkward and painful experiences with, with women to
To
Baudrillard.
Yes, please. Thank you for letting me escape. Please let me escape.
One more question though. Is Micah Paul in reference to 4chan Paul?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was curious. Yeah.
No, so that's the funny thing. I'm actually a
you
new... No, yeah. Well,
that's what the anime union, that's what they call us now. That's
yeah.
What they call it, fortunes.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I was kind of and I'll just go off on this a little bit, is I was actually a new head on Fortune.
A new F slur.
Yeah, a new F slur. So I actually got into like surfing the chans, like I went every once in a while, like
we all
early high school. Yeah, like early high school, and then I never really went back. It was like, ooh, look, there's crazy, evil, dark internet stuff. There's internet magic here, and there was like rumors in the school, like, oh, there's evil hackers there. So the hacker, like literally, people believe the hacker knows 4chan. Yeah, they literally believe that, and then it took until like maybe I was in college, so like 2016, before like me and a fellow, I was an RA out of college, so I was one of these people walking around, hey, quit smoking weed. you know, in the dorms. And me and another RA, he was just like, yo, dude, check this out. I was like, yo, source? I basically asked him sauce over and over again. And then he was like, and then he was like 4chan. I was like, that's where I really jumped in. So I'm like really the newest of new heads in all ways. It's just like, I think I picked up pretty quick.
I think, yeah, I think like you came in when 4chan becomes a Disneyland in the sense of like, now I'm thinking of the Boyd Ray song, Disneyland Can Wait. But you know, the one line, my favorite, and for everything you could say about Boyd Rice and hipster racism or whatever, the one line is so profound. Maybe one day I'll take you to Disneyland, and visiting, and the whole world can be like Disneyland, so that visiting hell can seem novel again. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. But
Yeah.
no, so the Disney or the carnivalization of the board,
Carnivalization of
yes,
4chan.
yeah, the carnivalization of 4chan, I think, has, I mean, it's final in total. We've passed the point of post history that we're moving on to reading pretty soon. But this is kind of like an aside, but I think a similar concept from Baudrillard. And if you guys want to follow along as well, I might spitball a couple chapters or a couple passages. But this is from the semiotext Foreign Agent series printing of Fatal Strategies. It's the one with the old mechanical cash register.
Oh, that one.
The front. Yes, that one.
Let me do the death growl. Fatal Strategies.
That's pretty good, man. I need to put you on a track. Actually,
I was in a metal band for when I was younger. Yeah,
dude, I'm gonna sample. Oh, and by the way, before
you want to sample, okay, I'll do the Black and Death one. Fatal Strategy.
Okay, I'm gonna use that. That's gonna be posted up tomorrow. I guarantee.
that could be like the Cannibal Corpse, like George Fisher. I remember they play like that was the big thing that they never played a Frantic Disembowelment because it was just too complicated, and they were like, but you know, They Deserve to Die was sort of like a similar, yeah, man. But this is, are you a metalhead, Michael?
So I was a metalhead, but I was kind of like, can you imagine this? I've got the face of a innkeeper, like an English innkeeper, but I was an emo kid. Real bad, like swooped bangs. Oh yeah, like I'm basically come on the show to embarrass myself. It's horrible.
Yeah, I really do bring it out of people.
But so I was listening to really like alt screamo stuff, like the essentially like
Hawthorne and what's
no, Atreyu, Devil Wears Prada, you know, that sort of stuff. Oh, Seosin, you know, touchy feely type. Oh, I'm so sad. You know,
back when of Vice and Men wasn't like chud new metal.
Yeah. So,
although I love that chud new metal album, though, I gotta admit, like, it's very much a wrestling song, wrestling music video album.
How do you feel about the boomer conning of Five Finger Death Punch, or was that always the case?
Oh God, it was always the case. No, it wasn't always the case, because I think like Five Finger Death Punch, they did the whole with that one music video over and out of it, or over and under it. They tried to do the whole like crossover into more mainstream rap, which is, I think, was more Gen X coded, but then like basically becoming military wife metal and having the aesthetic of like boomer skull, Harley Davidson / Ed Hardy type of content. Like that's,
dude. I
actually
have you seen
Five Finger Death Punch? You know why?
Why?
Because the opener, Hatebreed. Oh, that's why. That's the only reason I saw Five Finger Death Punch, because of Hatebreed. That was it. So, like,
have you seen their music video for "Living the Dream"?
Oh God!
Oh my God! It is amazing.
What's his name? Moody? Doesn't he go on Fox News? What's his name?
Oh, I think he does. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah. Oh, dude, it is so. I mean, it is. It's
military wife metal.
Yeah. Yeah. Metal, but it's just like so close to just like pure sincerity. There's no room for this kind of seduction of what's not known in the art.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
There's no. It's all completely flat. And I
It's the
think
metal
there's even
equivalent of like Lee Greenwood. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
'Cause
but
I'm
no,
proud to be an American, or at least I know. Like I always tease Prude because he's like, as a military brat, I've seen Lee Greenwood play on bases, on foreign bases, more times than I wanted to. And
oh
it's
no.
and I'm like, do they always end with like proud to be an American? He's like, yes. They always end with God bless the USA. That's
Yeah. I mean,
but
there's I
yeah,
thought,
but Five Finger Death Punch, you were saying you were
oh yeah, just
yeah.
the flattening of it seems like it's like the emo, the scream, the alt metal, like that kind of lane that I was driving in for a long time before I really dove into electronic music. That whole dimension seems to have flattened significantly.
Oh yeah,
In
definitely.
terms of like it's more screen and less art. But that goes for everything. I'm saying this is like a condition of modernity that everything
Yeah.
gets flattened into pure screen, pure like simulation or spectacle or spectacular image and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And it's got no content to it. But that's something that's really rocked me is like, you can't even find me like sincere music anymore. Like Pandora, does Pandora even work? How do you filter through like the mechanisms by which you even get to sincere music of the past? Like, is
Mhm.
actually like you're trudging uphill to get to sincere or more sincere music, I guess. Like people don't like screamy, tweeny metal or whatever, but you
It
can't even like
depends
find
though. Like I think that I have like again me being like an old head. I grew up in like the new metal post grunge era.
yeah.
And I remember the emo thing as well when we were, but I think Zoomers listening to new metal and even listening to certain post grunge, like Zoomers listening to Creed and Stained, like if you listen to the songs that Stained have come out with a few months ago, it's like old Stained. It's like songs off of Break the Cycle or Dysfunction. And it's
It's
like,
what people
man,
want. It's
it's what
what
people
people want.
want. Yeah, because they want sincerity. Like I remember like I did this thing back when I was on Follow the Rules. Um and I may bring him on the show actually. I remember Turkey Tom came on. And big YouTuber, big commentary YouTuber. And he's a Zoomer and he's like, "Yeah, so I was listening to like this, I was listening to like Breaking Benjamin and Iowa from Slipknot." I go, "Bro, I remember when Diary of Jane came out."
Whoa,
Yeah,
whoa,
like
because the
yeah,
do you
yeah.
remember video game like people would take the clips of their best moments and make
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it was that for like weird Korean MMOs. Like there was people with
And you
60
like and you hear Firefly or the title song Diary of Jane.
yeah,
Like,
or
yeah,
that whole album.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
dude, it's so sincere.
Or
It,
like
it's
Red by Chevelle. Like that
I
you put that
I
on there.
I still like all of that stuff. Like, yeah, I'm in that weird dimension where I had a PS3 as a kid, and
Oh
I
yeah.
stole my sister's old iPod video and stole all the music off of it because you could still do it back then. It's just that it would not have the name of the song. It would just be
Yeah.
like random letters and characters. But I would have all her music, and I was just like, oh, I don't know who that is, but track OXFA001112 on my PS3, I would like play that and like clean my room or something like that. And so I definitely have an affinity. Like I really love uh what's it called? Coheed and Cambria. That was a real
Oh
big one with
god.
my sister.
That's
Dude, my sister loved Coheed and Cambria. And so I still have a soft spot for all that stuff as
oh
well.
man.
I
That's
got it through
brutal.
diffusion through the PS3 and I didn't know what I was listening to. It was
Yeah,
amazing.
me it was like wrestling music videos I download off of LimeWire and they'd have like different tracks. Like I think that's how I discovered a lot of new metal from that. Um, but because of course, like, it was like you gotta realize, like, I think this is a good point. Like to be a chud, like to be like white working class chud in the early 2000s, it literally was heaven. It was like
Oh yeah.
wrestling was good, new metal, video games, X games,
Dude,
like
piracy was
piracy was
Kino.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Limp
Oh man.
Bizkit playing at WrestleMania. Like
It's just one of those days where you don't want to wake up. And so I really like remix culture for that element, because there's the people doing mashups of like electronic songs plus like a Limp Bizkit song. Like there's someone that mashed up. It was some, I can't remember. It was some electronic group and the vocals from Break Things. And
God.
it's no, I really love remix culture because it's kind of like a perturbation. It's almost like low culture is like a surface of a wave or of an ocean, and those perturbations where you can get kind of that little bit more, something that you didn't realize was more than the sum of its parts.
It's a smooth space. It's a smooth space you can like graft onto various striations upon.
Yeah. I like low culture, and I think there's a lot of people, especially with music taste, that that I don't think have any, even like a moderate, hands-off approach appreciation, where like, oh, it's not my music, but I can see where the talent comes from and stuff like that. I see a lot of people that just like, I like this. It's hyper particular, and there's nothing. Particularity is actually a really good thing. It's why we're on the right, being particular. And
I remember this one tweet by Keith Slime. Shout out to Keith Slime. It was like Trump, and it was like Giga Chad with a certain uniform from a certain division of a certain mid-century German group. It's like, we're gonna bring back Creed, we're gonna bring back Limp Bizkit, we're gonna bring back wrestling that's good, the Attitude Era. We're gonna bring back the X Games.
One can only dream. One can only dream. Man, I really have you been seeing these posts by like Trump history, where they're just using AI art to put Trump into like different historical pictures, like
Trump is like a sushi chef, and
like the digital mythology of Trump. Seems to grow. It seems to grow permanently, and that's like his one big advantage, if anything at all. It's he's a hyperreal character. Like his popularity is
character.
His popularity is popular, right? He is more popular than popular, in the same way that maybe a Britney Spears or some other famous singer from yesteryear like had the same media screen effect, where the idea of this person is elevated in people's psyches. Like it's a magical trick of media psychology that gets you thinking that way, and it kind of like deifies these people. And I used to critique people all the time for like, oh man, you're just making false idols, man. All these people that you follow, the Kardashians, they just want to sell you something, dude. And I was I think I was more naive, because I think that's a facet of human psychology. It's just like, is that directed towards good or not?
I think that Trump, I've always said, is a version of Americana that cannot be without America. And I think a lot of this comes from the latency of digital media in the early 2000s, early up until the mid 2000s, in terms of celebrity culture that millennials grew up on, and then they took into the internet. So Trump is like that when he was on The Apprentice. Of course, before the Kardashians, the real pop idol that did more than like even more than even, I mean, sorry, not more, but like took off the legacy from Marilyn Monroe, was of course Paris Hilton, being famous for being famous.
Yes.
And that, I think Trump is also in that regard, because even he has material assets and material brands. The brand of Trump becomes the thing itself, the thing in itself, that then gets transcended into, by 2016, you have this digital mythos of people memeing him.
Oh, sorry about that. Drink a 20-ounce Red Bull, trying to
sound like a racehorse pissing in there.
Well, you know me. Look, hey Tony, it's my wife loves me. Well, we'll just say that she loves me very much.
I always make that stupid Vito joke from The Sopranos. Sound like a racehorse. It's funny because someone on Twitter even posted like he says to you, you sound like a racehorse pissing there. It's like, how do you respond to that? Like, how do you respond to that information?
I how how would you respond to that information? I think the only way to save face is to go with the bit. You've got to just
Yeah,
roll
I'd be
with the
like,
bit.
yes, thank you.
Hey, you know what can I say?
But it's funny how Vito, like, he's trying to dissuade Finn from Meadow's boyfriend from like telling people that he's closeted, but it's like that's like the what he says. Like, it's such a great writing from David Chase. Sound like a racehorse pissing in there. But no, we were saying about the image and Trump as a living mythology. I mean,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
still
yeah.
has that power, and I think next year we're going to sort of it won't be the same as 2016. Please, it won't be the same. But it always reminds me of I think what recently my good friend on Twitter and Julius,
Our good friend.
our good friend, he had this clip from the is his name not Robert William Gibson, the sci-fi writer. He wrote Neuromancer.
No, see, I'm not. I watch a lot of sci-fi shows, but I didn't read a lot of sci-fi when I was a kid or
Oh, I
anything.
think it's not uh what's his he has this documentary that he's just basically in 1999 he was driving around in a car. William Gibson. It's called No Maps for These Territories. And there's this one line that and Julius clipped where he's talking about how we sort of become increasingly unstable with like it's following the Baudrillard's thesis of the disappearance of the subject. But he's talking about how like basically people they have a latency of 10 years or so or their childhood where we sort of mythologize our past and we sort of feel more comfortable with things within our immediate past because the sort of the ever flowing nature of time in the internet era is so totalizing and so crushing that a way of memeing our past experiences and millennials have done this par excellence where we'll take like SpongeBob memes or like even like I was mentioning new metal or like we'll take like memes from those like old apprentice clips from Trump and bring it into the present and the way of doing that is sort of like making us feel a level I mean maybe this is just millennialism but making us feel a level of existential comfort by taking for example SpongeBob. Notice how SpongeBob memes will never die. They keep
Yes.
coming, right? Even if they come from newer episodes of SpongeBob, it's almost like um a weird sort of confluence of time. For example, I remember this one account on Twitter. I think it was on Twitter. No, it was a liminal space compilation, but there's many of these accounts on Twitter, like Millennial Nostalgia Bait. It was a liminal spaces compilation where it was a kid's room from the early 2000s. And on the television, on those big boxy plastic televisions, was SpongeBob. And it's like, it seems so out of time because SpongeBob, like The Simpsons, well, unfortunately, like The Simpsons, exist in the present. And I think that the way that millennials have memed is in some weird unconscious way coming to terms with the mimetic contagions that the internet creates, the oceanic experience of the internet, by searching into those very cherished baubles of our past as millennials before the internet was so totalizing. But then, of course, the contradiction is that you're bringing that into the present. Therefore, you're marking it with the mark of hyperreality and of the internet age. So it's like it's almost a self-defeating comfort mechanism in a
Or
way. Yeah.
I think if I was to riff on this a little bit, I would say the SpongeBob meme or some of these oddities that seem to be the same as other memes and perturbations in like the infinite amount of space time
Yeah.
in infinite instances of the internet. Well, those things that seem out of place and out of time and they never go away, those are actually that's kind of like a pseudo territorialization
Mhm.
of the thing into the environment. It becomes part of the walls, right?
Yeah.
There's some features of this space that is the internet, and the things that actually stuck and bled onto the walls become I don't know, like holographs. They keep popping their head out every once in a while because they're part of the environment now. They've
Yes.
actually buried themselves into into the psyche or the social scene or something.
And they
It's now a
never
feature.
leave. They
Yeah.
can't erase the way that previous analog media can be erased or can be forgotten by the sequence of the television. Now it's always ever present, all at
Yeah.
once.
It's imagine living on a world where bushes were SpongeBob memes. You would paint bushes as a SpongeBob. Like
Yeah.
if that's the level of it's actually dug into kind of like how we or make analogies in our brain in order to understand things in terms of like sign and signified and or it's part of how we relate to meaning, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
through these mimetic inversions that seem out of place.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost as if language itself has been permeated with this. I remember this one point, and as much as I've had a falling out with this person, as much as they're getting into drama, I remember Logo Daedalus had this great point where there was this one episode of Star Trek, the Next Generation, with Picard, where
Mhm.
it was this planet of people that didn't have language as it relates to syntax, but rather they would always refer to historical events or to common references of activities. So the way that they would express a thought or a feeling was through reference to something else in their past. So they would say Picard save Bigron or whatever. And so logo is like the way that you people on the internet, the way you relate to meme culture, especially in the e-right, because of course everything becomes about chiding his former friends, is like based, cringe, 2016, Lucas Room, based, cringe, Cole.
But
Like
no,
it's like
the
yeah.
reason that hits the nail on the head is
Giga
because he
Chad, Giga Chad in you know, Giga Chad in Lucas Room, cringe. Like it's like yeah.
but that's like
Language becomes destroyed in the sequence of events and images and references to other meme and events. And yeah, so there you go. Yeah.
yeah, so this is exactly why I think Baudrillard is interesting. If we ever want to get back to to Baudrillard,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
is semiotics, right? The
Yes.
way that we actually make meaning or understand meaning, and that kind of like science, quote unquote, that science of kind of typifying what makes meaning and how that affects us in our thinking, especially like Jean Baudrillard, whenever he writes in these long polemicals about like, oh, here's a feature, like a phenomena, right? Like for instance, when he writes about the type of fatness that's in America, or pornography being the death of like real male to female human interaction,
Yeah. Yeah.
that um that is how semiotics is actually being translated into, okay, this has changed how we think some way. Also, here is what the byproduct of this change of meaning and how we actually make meaning in our mind, how it's totally destroyed like the social fabric. And
Hmm.
Baudrillard, I think, is a great diagnostician because all he does is point out, here's like 15 symptoms in a row. Okay, I'm going to write a little polemical about this, a little polemical about all this, and make an analogy for you to understand why the meaning has changed and how that and why that is responsible for this change in behavior. And
Yeah.
I think that is a extremely interesting perspective. Especially like the other postmodernists and these kind of like diagnosticians of decline, like Deleuze,
Like
it kind of
Diverlio and Deleuze. Yeah.
yeah, Deleuze. I've only got one book by Deleuze, like, and I gave up. I was like, I cannot understand. And it's probably a bad one to start out on. It's oh, the
Thousand
Nomad in the
Plateaus.
Nomad in the War Machine. It's a short one.
That I
Um,
believe comes from the Thousand Plateaus.
oh,
Yeah.
does it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But man, that stuff's so hard for me. And then it really chapped my butt when when Prude kept saying after the event in some of his post-event streams, he was like, "Yeah, Micah Poole, he talked a lot about Deleuze and Guattari." I'm like, "No, I didn't. No, I did not. I
Mhm.
don't understand any Deleuze." And that's I think the first time I ever contacted you, I was asking you like about other postmodernists and how
Oh,
you boil
yeah.
them down.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't have a very good reading relationship with many of the others because Baudrillard, there's just so much to read, and I
Mhm.
kind of lose myself in that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Deleuze and Guattari is always, like, the hill to climb, but like, I think, it's very difficult if you've read it. Like, a lot of people, they say start with, like, difference repetition, then, like, logic of sense, and then by the time you get to that, then you could somewhat understand more of the concepts in, like, Anti-Oedipus and A Thousand Plateaus, but
Mhm.
I think that The Thousand Plateaus is, like, really it really is sort of like the magnum opus key to understanding most of Deleuze's work and Guattari's work even after Deleuze. Like books like Chaosmosis or like the Three Ecologies. But besides that, no, it is funny like how language transforms the way that language becomes memified, but in turn memes transform language to the point where we are talking more about contingent events or amalgamations of meme plexes where like Giga Chad as a Russian soldier versus Soy Jack, Giga Chad, like Giga Chad 2016 Trump, like it's very much like that. Yeah, like the image itself creates language rather than the image being informed by language. And I think that, it goes to, I mean, even Baudrillard talks about this, the transition from media literacy to what was known as a commonly held understanding of literacy not just as the written language, but also implying reference to the cultural gist of our time as living embodiment and experience. Now there's so many things that transform that notion of what is quote unquote cultural literacy that
And
it's almost impossible to keep up with. Yeah, go ahead.
oh yeah, I definitely see. Okay, so the best analogy for that would be, okay, look at all these kids who were raised by iPads,
Mhm.
and they're basically nonverbal until they're like 7 or something ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
You think that the language center of their brain, hello, I'm a scientist, the language center of the brain, do you think it just like withers away and dies? No. Of
No, of course
course,
not.
that little bit of tooling in the brain is actually applied to a different type of literacy, right? A
Yeah.
media consuming literacy. And I think the reason why that is bad necessarily is because that type of literacy endears someone to like a being passive, actually internalizing uh internalizing this acting for a screen flatness. Like for
Mhm.
instance, the those chicks that are doing the engagement super chat, call and response.
Oh
No, it
god.
turns you no, but that understanding turns you into more of a robot, right?
Yes.
Those people are being NPC.
Spicy. What's the famous one?
Ice cream
Oh,
so good. Ice cream.
ice cream so good. Ice cream so good.
It's horrible.
Yeah,
But
no,
those
no, that
people
was
are
the
a
American one. The Elf one was like the one that tripped me up. The Elf one where she said, "Oh, it's so spicy." Like that
yeah,
was
she
the
sounded like a monster. Yeah,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
dude.
Like it's
That's
uh
spicy. Yeah.
yeah. So that's the one that you got to watch out for. I mean, it's all like, let's face it, it's all just an OnlyFans pipeline. But like, it's the apparently the other one where she's so good, gang. Like apparently she got
Mhm.
doxxed and like they kicked her off the platform or off of Twitch or whatever. Or I don't know. Like it's just
Mm.
I remember Turkey Tom had like a video on it. Because sometimes like drama is just too there's too much.
I'm not gonna watch it. I can't do this.
So
I'm
good, so
already so
good.
busy. I'm already so busy. I don't want to know.
It
And
is the
it,
perfect like Baudrillardian like turning yourself into like the object has agency, the subject doesn't have agency. Of
yes,
like
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I was that is something that I think someone who doesn't know anything at all, I just say, hey, have you seen that interview with Nick Land? It's Nick Land and oh, what's it? Justin Murphy.
Yeah.
And Nick Land, Professor Land, had to correct him. He said, "No, you're dropping back into the human security system. I am
Mm.
concerned with something else, specifically like this agent of capital being the true subject, right? Humans, the naive human subject is dead." And I say, okay, that concept where Nick Land is chiefly concerned with something else other than humans making decisions, having
Yeah.
agency, being the philosophical subject. Baudrillard has the exact same thing, and you can read them against each other. And there is a lot of overlap between, what I read in Baudrillard and Nick Land's writing as well. And so, like for instance, in ecstasy, this is the object in advertising as the consumer in contemplation of the advertisement, the spinning of use value and exchange value into annihilation in the pure empty form of brand name. Right? There's brand name is something that is elevated above the fold because of weird stuff going on. Right? It is this object that is emergent, an emergent phenomenon, and it has agency. It becomes both what's being focused on and what is making the decision at the same time.
Yeah. Like how many things did Coca-Cola end? How many regimes? Apartheid, the Soviet Union, that's all crap, but in some respects it's true because it's more real that like Coca-Cola and Levi Jeans and Nike ended apartheid and ended the Soviet Union rather than like the very complex geopolitical uh you know events and problems and strategies that was going on in the world in, for example, the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So it becomes like the brand, um, it's sort of like, I said this during the Haas versus Patrick Casey debate. Um, did you watch that, by the way?
No, it's I think Hawes is an interesting character to drop in and see what he's got going on, but I don't interact a lot with his content because I think it's interesting. It's a interesting phenomena to watch. I don't know what to do with it, and I've been so busy the past couple weeks. Like I basically can only listen to a few audio only shows at work, and then go home and just work on other
Mm.
stuff. Yeah,
No,
so
but
I've been falling behind. Yeah.
yeah, but that is a very funny one. The best was when it was in Haas is like, well, sorry, no, when Patrick Casey was like, well, Haas, this is your ordeal of civility right here, and like Haas is like freaking out. But I no, but I said no, but I said that I said that it's funny how Haas is talking about South Africa and apartheid and how capital like didn't care until like he unironically believes that like capital didn't care about ending apartheid until like rock stars and Coca-Cola and Nike was like protesting
That's
the
nonsense.
regime. No, it's nonsense because like materially it's nonsense because there has been things like, for example, I believe it was the British Foreign Office that were even like drafting papers in the 60s saying like how can we break up apartheid South Africa and Ian Smith's Rhodesia. And so it's like, it's materially not true, but also like this thing of like, and I noticed like, and you have experience with this because you were like, or you said that you were affiliated with like the post left, where it's very much like capital is blind and therefore it will change to social liquidation and conditioning if it goes in a certain direction that they only care about profits. And that's why woke capital is only because they care about profits and it's not because of this other thing. And like that's where as much as I'm sympathetic to like certain forms of quote unquote post left thinking, to me that just sounds ridiculous. And it's
Yeah,
like,
and I
yeah,
agree. Most of that synthesis for me what was actually um integrating just like a little bit of Baudrillard and and
yeah,
then reading some Marx for like an understanding of like where some concepts come from.
And like 70s social critique, like books like Everything Solid Melts in the Air, like those.
Yeah, and
Christopher Lash, which is all good stuff. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying like people like Twink Zorg. Sorry, Tink Zorg. I said Twink Zorg again. Tink Zorg. People like, Edmund Aponte and people like Compact, like and there's a lot of great people that write a Compact. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying like, like people like that, they take it and they run with it and they don't realize that it's not just the blind forces of capital, but there's obviously a sort of political agency there that manifests like, and at the end of the day, it even doesn't matter if a CEO of a corporation, like the CEO of Coca-Cola has a Pride Month commercial. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they're just cynically driven by profits because the social transformation happens anyways. And that's something that even Ora McIntyre said. So anyways, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
But like in terms of like synthesizing a lot of the ideas I think are good to actually like play around with in your mind and see if you don't get anything useful out of it in terms of like developing a heuristic for thinking about something. I'm very fortunate to live with one of my roommates. He's a philosophy grad filmmaker guy. And real big movie head. And he, me and him will just sit and talk for hours.
Does he have an online presence? Maybe I can interview him next.
Oh, yeah. I don't know about this one. He is very micro small. He's like lurking essentially. So I don't want to give him away and just
you don't want to blow his spot.
I don't want to blow his spot. Yeah, because he's developing he comes from a very leftist background, but he's become a post-left Burkean conservative guy. He's a really odd duck in terms of like he likes Oakeshott and a lot of this stuff about.
There you go. He's like bordering on Paleocon, but more of like that tradition. Yeah.
Yes, and so he actually, whenever like I bring something up to him, he can go back and he's got a huge collection of books that he can go like, oh, here's my annotation on this and kind of where like, and here's how I would develop my thinking more about like something I ask him about. And he's a handy resource for, pointing me all the way from, to some like weird Italian author that's kind of like this underground post-left dude. I can't remember any of the authors, but he'll just like pull something out and he's like, yeah, generally I can see a lot of this going on. It's handy to have someone like that to talk to and kind of synthesize stuff because you don't want to get yourself sucked into the stuff. It's kind of trying to hypnotize you into like joining like some sort of leftism group or something in general. It's there is a risk of irony poisoning. It's just I'm immune to it. I'm better than all of you is all I'm saying.
Do the left have a version of irony poisoning?
No, it's
I mean, apart from like millennial irony poisoning, but like they have the irony left, and the irony left is like just basically irony poison. But like they still have this like weirdo, like I believe in nothing, man. But by the way, trans rights are human rights, so it's.
I think it's it's actually like a social dynamic more than something they think about because it's like associations. Like, oh, sorry, they basically have like, oh, I'm concerned about optics, and so I just kind of build my little box. Right, it has way more to do with, or that's how they resist irony poisoning. I don't know what they would call it. It would be something like, dude, bro, that's just kind of not cool.
Touch grass,
touch grass, essentially.
Whereas I think like with the political right, irony poisoning is much more of like a defense mechanism against censorship and against detection. And so I think like, but then again, there is a right-wing version of and I hate to say it, most of them are millennials of my generation, where it's sort of like mimicking the leftoid, the irony left, the Chapoist, like touch grass, have relations and be a party boy and like be like a sort of like early 2000s version of a jock. You know what I mean? Like, and ogle e-girls and all this stuff, like without
like
naming names.
With it, like this path is open. You just got to find the right.
Oh my god!
You just got to find. You got to swim up that river of
Yeah.
just chasing these
Be
these
heckin' normal, bro. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, I
And
hate
the anime
heckin'.
Jungen is very much like rejecting of this. The Zoomer anime Jungen, like they hate this. They despise this for good reason. But yeah, go. I don't know if you've experienced this, Mike.
No,
Yeah.
this is a phenomenon I'm less familiar with. Actually. So I don't have a lot to add actually in this specific case.
No, but like
Oh.
you were saying about like right wing irony poisoning versus left wing irony poisoning.
Oh, okay, back to
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I would say um left-wing irony poisoning is something that generally is just like a recognized set of behaviors from other people
Yes.
that are around you. Um Whereas I think on the right, I think a lot of dudes, it's kind of like a stair step to black pill despair.
Yes. Yes.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
where they'll kind of work themselves into this, like they recognize that like everyone on the right who is irony poisoned, for the most part, I think realizes they're irony poisoned, and it's like, man, I'm kind of depressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's being an individual thing that you feel versus it being primarily social is, I think, a lot of the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Because yeah, I think that and when you think of all the implications of what we're talking about in terms of life in the digital age, it's sort of like a ridiculous thing, but a lot of like the irony left, they have this, and I think like BAP is 100% correct in this. Whatever you think of BAP, that the left is largely a cult of normalcy, and nothing is greater than like this, like Norwooding mid 30s NYC podcaster, leftist millennial, like on it, like ironic mullet, like that guy that his claim to fame, what's his name, where he like is a TikTok star, but his only claim to fame is that I believe Howling Mutant like destroyed this guy last month on an exchange and on Twitter. The guy that filmed those guys in a Boston bar saying F slurs.
Those guys. Oh man, I heard about this through my roommate. Oh man,
Yeah,
no, I
this
didn't
guy,
see
he's
it.
got like an unironic, like he's got an ironic mullet and a mustache and like
Oh
he was saying something about like some rapper getting canceled, and this like meme account is like, you're an aging millennial Norwood hipster that like go back to listening to NYC podcasts, F you. Like it's like these people, they have this cult of like normalcy where it's like, go and touch grass, go and have go and have relations with a woman, go and drink beer in a bush party. Like they really have this like idea of what normal was in the like the early to mid 2000s that they're permanently stuck with. And like, go and listen to rap, go and be obsessed with like getting strange, and go like they have this very like much appeal to, which is tragic because they're like in their mid 30s to even 40s now, and they haven't grown up. And maybe even the ones that do have like a wife and kid, it's like they still have this they try to LARP as like this, I'm a bro, and like, go and like, but then of course, like it's never like the true like North American chud bro culture, which is quote unquote problematic. So it's very much like as reality sort of slips from our fingers the way that we did know it, there still is like this weird cult of normalcy that people have, and that cross cuts ideological barriers.
When you were laying out the type of like leftist that has this cult of normalcy kind of thing going on, because I've noticed, I don't know if it's like the people I went to high school with or that my age, like is it something particular or is it my particular age where that kind of cult of normalcy leftist
Yeah.
is, he's a little bit different in this day age. Like he's kind of he's mutated a small
Yeah.
amount, where his cult of normalcy is actually being very interested in city planning, and oh my gosh, we need trains. Come on, man, don't you want better cities?
Maglab.
Yeah, exactly.
In America.
The maglev, it's like, look, the real normal is just like making things a little bit better and like pretending to be chipper whenever I know this guy or dudes, that I'm thinking of that I know in my age demographic, they kind of have this like solidness where it's like, no, I'm doing this because like the normal is just over the hill. And so
Yeah.
our cultural normalcy is just barely out of reach. Like, come on, man, you just got to be cooler. Just, vote for Bernie, or not even vote for Bernie, but vote for AOC or something.
Yeah.
We just need better infrastructure to take care of the poors. And that's their kind of cult of normalcy that I've noticed.
Yeah.
Do you see that as a generational change or no?
Oh, 100%. Like, I think that the Zoomer radicals on the left are much more sincere, much more caught up in like fulfilling the millennial leftist project of identity issues. But at the same time, they do have this like I think like growing up in a post 2008 world, it's sort of like it leads to a sort of fatalism. And I think that the millennials still largely have lived in a like mom and dad's basement, middle class, decaying existence, but still like caught within a sense of lethargy and a fundamental grinding to a halt of any sort of social mobility. Whereas like the Zoomers have lived in that, but that's all they've known. So it's very different. Like I think to them, economic issues are much more of like we live in the post-apocalyptic scenario already, and we know that we don't have really a future. Whereas millennials have this like supreme rage over like social forces that have long since been out of our hands,
The
whether it be
post-apocalypse,
offshoring or yeah.
the post-apocalypse kind of framing is something I've been thinking about a lot
We already live in it. We already
recently.
live in it. Yeah,
We
yeah.
already live in it. And it doesn't matter who you look at. They either say it's like decline, or we're in a stuck culture, or
Yeah.
there's a different way to frame it. But basically, there's a point where something went wrong, and
Nothing happens, but things still happen. Yeah.
yeah, it's that same. Everyone feels like time is frozen, not in
Yes.
like a Fukuyama sense, but in a I don't know,
An
someone else's
existential
sense.
sense.
In an existential sense, or we're stuck. We have successfully frozen with scientific innovation, the Dharmic wheel. There's nothing that can kick it back into motion. But at the same time, every moment that Dharmic wheel is stuck, we're actually like, well, it's actually degraded.
Thank you for listening to the Content Minded podcast, where every Wednesday there are interesting guests, amazing ideas, solo streams, and discussions on a diverse array of topics from art, philosophy, history, and more. The free version will be available both here on YouTube and as a downloadable link on Anchor and Spotify, as well as on Substack. Each week, the full, uncensored, and spicier version will now be available on both Patreon and Substack, where you will have access to the full archive of both Content Minded and of Giant Reviews, where I break down interesting texts every week, including other exciting paywalled articles and good content. Thank you all. Please like, share, and subscribe. God bless. Goodbye. Help keep the content renaissance alive. Too sweet.